everything that you put into your body is a choice. And in my world, it was a life or death decision.
Welcome back to Spartan Up the podcast. We are the official podcast of Spartan Race and your weekly partners of resilience for both mind and body. This week, our fearless CEO is meeting with the one and only Doug Evans, author of the Sprout book. Now, as you all know, I'm also the Seed Huntress, and I'm so excited for this episode because we'll be talking about seeds. So, as you can see, I'm not wearing my pajamas. I'm wearing, as Marion calls it, my sprout fit. So what's this episode going to look like? Well, first, Doug talks us through how he took responsibility for his life. And then he gets into how we can break our addictions to salt and sugar and all of that garbage that we know we need to throw in the proverbial pond, right? And then after that, we get into sprouting. What is sprouting, you may ask? Doug's going to tell you how with a simple jar and a rather inexpensive pack of seeds, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you Spartans can have food security, nutritional diversity, and that power pack of energy that we all need for the race course and for life. So enjoy this episode and stay tuned afterwards because I'll tell you where you guys can get these supplies and do it on your own. Enjoy.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com.
Spartans, I'm here with Doug Evans. This is the Sprout Man. You mind if I call you the Sprout Man?
There is a Sprout Man, may he rest in peace. You could call me the Sprout Spartan. I like that better, Joe.
How about the Spartan Sprout Man?
Spartan Sprout Man, that's great.
All right, the SSM. In case somebody's got a mouthful of sprouts and they can't talk, they just go, "Hey, this is the SSM."
Yeah, or you could just call me Doug Evans, and it's going to be ubiquitous with the guy who's driving the mission of getting the world to sprout. Like, that's what I'm talking about, Joe.
And you're living in the Mojave Desert, and you're sweating your ass off. And tell us the story about just being caught up in the grind and on the hamster wheel like we all are, and how you found this place of healthy nutrition.
Yeah, so I grew up in New York City. I wrote graffiti on subway trains. I cheated my way through high school. And when I was age 17, all of my friends were the degenerates. These were guys that were criminals, drug dealers, and like I didn't know any good people, like all of the people that I knew. And then I had a run-in with the police. I got arrested, then I escaped. And the next day I joined the 82nd Airborne, which was my introduction to force Spartan, because you can't quit in the military. And I found that out on day one. So after literally, they dropped me in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, the middle of also nowhere. I did 17 inches of snow. I'm doing push-ups in the snow. And I look up at the drill sergeant and he's like, "What are you looking at?" And that was the beginning of the end, where I became his target of abuse for the next 18 hours of that day. And I did push-ups and sit-ups. They shaved your head. They took away all your personal belongings. And at 11 o'clock that night, I was 17 years old. I went into his office and I said, "You got the wrong guy. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to community college. I'm going to be nice to my mother. I'll do my bed." And he looks at me, he goes, "There's no way out." And I go, what do you mean? Because I had watched Private Benjamin. I thought it was going to be a joke. And he said, "There's no way out." And he goes, "Look, there's no bars on the windows. You could leave. But if you go AWOL, you will live the rest of your life as a fugitive, and you will trip up. They will find you, and then you will be incarcerated at hard labor. So, Private, get the out of my office." And I was like, holy shit. And that was my introduction to discipline. And at that moment, I stayed up for the rest of the night, looking up at my bunk bed and saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, there's a reason why I'm here. I'm here because I made a decision. There was time for me to grow up. And if I'm going to grow up, I'm just going to, for the first time in my life, I'm going to accept a higher power, a higher authority. And that was, the US military. And whatever they told me to do, whether I liked it or not, I was on automatic. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I did that. I went through boot camp, infantry training, airborne training, combat engineer training, air assault training, unit armor training. And I was so into it. I was doing special forces, explosives and demolitions, remote training, like training. And that's what stopped any idea of escaping, feeling sorry for myself. And when I got out of the Army, I was a monster. Like I could do anything. Like I really felt like I could do anything. And then I just started to work, bus boy, bar, waiter, restaurants, grocery store, and anything I could do to make money. Like I just wanted to make money. I was honest. I didn't want to go back to the street. I didn't want to be near the other guys. And then I found my Karate Kid mentor type of thing. It was a guy named Paul Rand who was, I love that you're bringing this back. I haven't thought about this in a long time. And this guy was in his 70s. He designed the logos for IBM, ABC, UPS, Westinghouse, like a living legend graphic designer. And he taught the master's program at Yale. And I showed up on his doorstep and I said, look, I was a graffiti writer. Now I want to be a graphic designer. You are the guy and you're going to teach me. And he looks at me, he looks at his wife. He's like, who are you? And I ended up working for him for 7 years as an unpaid intern. So apprentice intern, unpaid, 7 years until the day he died. Like we were still in the hospital. And then I started to become successful. I started to make a little money, save a little money. And then my mother died of cancer. And my aunt got diabetes and they chopped off her feet below her ankles. And then my uncle got heart disease and died. And all along, like I'm thinking I'm successful, I'm not realizing that I've got a pot belly. I'm 36 pounds. I'm heavier. I'm like falling asleep in the middle of the afternoon because I just pounded down 9-piece chicken McNugget, double quarter pounder with cheese, large fries, large vanilla shake, large Coke, and top it off with an apple pie. And I wasn't even hungry. I was just so addicted to the fat, sugar, salt of the processed food. And I didn't make the connection until my father died of heart disease. And then my brother got the first of 3 strokes and a heart attack. And that's when I had like my awakening, my second awakening. My first one was join the Army. My second awakening was I was going to die. Like I was genetically cursed. I was going to die. And then, like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. So I'm out in a nightclub, 2:00 in the morning. On my way into the nightclub, I had a shish kebab in the street, right on Broadway in Times Square on 47th Street. I'm eating a shish kebab. I meet this woman and like I would do anything to talk to this woman, and turned out she was a vegan. And I'd never heard of vegan before. And I'm like wiping the grease off of my face and I'm like listening, and her sister died of cancer. Her mother died of cancer. And she's telling me that it has nothing to do with my genetics. That was all about lifestyle, like what you were eating. And in a 2-week period, you asked for the journey. I went from eating street food and fast food to vegetarian, vegan, and then raw vegan. And that was 21 years ago.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I have a similar story. My mom, mid-70s, early 70s, walks into a health food store. We came from an Italian neighborhood. Everybody was eating raviolis, cannolis, pasta, pizza. And she literally did an about face in that health food store. probably the only health food store in New York. Maybe, you know, there weren't very many.
Yeah.
No yoga journal, no Whole Foods. And she just made an about face and became a vegan like that, started meditating, started teaching yoga. So I get it. You were part of that class, you know?
So that was my intro. That was my intro. And then, you know, I knew your buddy, his name is now escaping me. Fred, yeah, Fred Bishi. So I listened to Fred Bishi. Thank you, Marion. So I met Fred Bishi, and like I was just in on that, and it was such a difficult lifestyle to have access to the food. So I ended up with this woman who I met. We started a business called Organic Avenue, and for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012, every day I was like that Hellman's guy, or the guy who's making the sour cream. For literally for 365 days a year, we were making cold pressed juice, which was a crazy situation. And we went from making 10 juices in our first day to then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000. And we opened up 10 stores in New York City and in the Hamptons. And this was real growth. And sold that business, got fired the day we lost control, December 2012. And then like I went on to creating my next journey where I invented this Juicero machine. And I just, you know, literally, I couldn't take more bullets for creating an automatic juicer when people wanted an automatic Coke machine, coffee machine, crack machine, you know, methamphetamine machine. People weren't interested in green juice at that scale. And so I did that for 5 years. And then I ended up saying, what am I doing in New York? What am I doing in LA? What am I doing in San Francisco? I now know that like all this madness is just superficial, that I need to connect with nature. And the lowest cost, most accessible place for nature is the desert. Like today, you could go buy 5 acres of land in Joshua Tree for $25,000. I mean, it's crazy. And so I had a vision that I was going to move to Joshua Tree. I was going to find hot springs, and then I was going to unpack my life and then recreate it at a greater level of purpose. And I was going to write down and journal anything that anyone ever said to me that pissed me off or that resonated. And I did this like unpacking post-mortem work, and being like watching every sunset, every sunrise, and seeing the stars. And then I realized my true purpose is that I was, you know, given this energy. I had now been given this, you know, health where I can go out and run 5K, 10K at 100 degrees, 110 degrees, middle of the day, and not even break a sweat. Like I don't even notice. And I was given this skill, like what could I do to share this message with the world? And then I had this second vision of writing this book called the Sprout Book. And I'm in the desert here, an hour and 15 minutes from Whole Foods. And this is not only the desert, Joe, this is the food desert. So I went in to a little like part of my brain, survival mechanism that said, how can I survive in the desert? I have water, right? And I have shade, but what am I going to do for food? And then the idea of sprouting came along, like how I could take these seeds, add some water, and grow sprouts in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days a week. And not only was I like just getting calories, I was getting protein, I was getting micronutrients, phytonutrients, polyphenols, antioxidants, prebiotics, probiotics. And within 1 month, 50% of my calories, of my nutrition were coming from sprouts that I was growing. And I did the math. I spent $12 on seeds for like a month worth of food. And that just like blew my mind. I got on a plane. I went to New York. I pitched one publisher, St. Martin's Press, part of Macmillan, a legitimate publisher. And I said, look, there's never been a book written about sprouts by a major publisher. The world thinks that sprouts are for Joe De Sena's hippy dippy trippy mom and other like fanatics. And I want to make sprouts mainstream. I want everyone to be aware that they can take control of their nutrition by growing their own sprouts with the equipment. Like literally all you need is a glass jar, like a screen. You could see this screen, or some cheesecloth, or like anything. You could sprout in anything. These seeds want to come alive. Like a seed, check this out. This is 1 pound of sunflower seeds. You look at one seed. This one sunflower seed, if you soak it, it will sprout and it will grow. And you can eat it after it's like 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 5 inches. If you let that grow longer and transplant that into the soil, it'll grow to 6 feet or 7 feet. And it's so intelligent and tuned in, they call it a sunflower, that it will turn with the sun from sunrise to sunset. And then after it flowers, it will then produce 500 more seeds. And these seeds and these sprouts are an incredibly packed source of nutrition, of enzymes, of protein, of chlorophyll. And it's like crazy that why wasn't everyone sprouting? And so, Joe, I could keep going, but I'm going to take a pause so I can breathe and take a sip of my water.
Eat a sprout, take a sip of water. And, you brought me back to my roots, so to speak. And I'm sorry, I've been hitting mute because the kids and the family are all in the background. And you brought me back to my roots because I'm thinking my mother used to sprout in the 70s. Like I remember along the windowsill and these little plastic containers. Yeah, and so I bought some sprouts after you and I connected a month or so ago, and I've been eating them. I ate some broccoli sprouts because you told me those were the best.
Yeah,
they're a bit spicy. I've actually got some Spartans doing 10 days sprouts only.
I love it. Oh wow.
Yeah, so we're and it's like when I met Dr. Fred Vichy, who you and I both know, who has only eaten raw fruits and vegetables, raw, nothing cooked for 55 years, right? He met me and he saw I was a maniac. I wanted to take his knowledge and his power and introduce to everybody. So we're going to do that with you. And we're going to create sprouting Spartans. What do you think of that?
Look, I think it's, if you think about it, right, it is the most logical part. And at one point when the Spartans lived, right, the first generation Spartans, not the Joe's Spartans, the first generation, every vegetable that they ate, they knew where it came from. They either grew it or they got it from someone who they knew, right? Food was local back then, and they ate it, and it was nutritionally dense. Fast forward today, we live in a fast food culture, food desert culture, import from all around the world. People have no idea what they're eating and where it's coming from. And that's where somewhere along the line, sprouts were used to grow, like the seedlings, to grow mature plants, because there was no shortage of soil. So if you have soil and you have gardens, you could grow copious amounts of vegetables, and they're healthy for you. But if you live in a 400 square foot apartment, or you are living on food stamps, or you are traveling on a van or a bus, and you don't have a lot of space, then all of a sudden, like that was my insight, that everybody could have their own organic garden with as little as 1 square foot, 1 square foot, 1 cubic foot. They could have their own organic garden, regardless of where they lived, in the Antarctica, in the Mojave Desert, in Vermont. Doesn't matter. You could 1 cubic foot, like that. That's how a Spartan could take food control and food sovereignty. Marion just sent me a message, and I love, when wise people tell me. So we're going to make this very practical. Okay. So tools required for sprouting. Number one, I use a glass jar, right? You can use a glass jar. You could use a sock. You could use an empty clamshell that you get from the grocery store. You could use a tray. You could use soil. You could use an unbleached paper towel. For this purpose of these Spartans, I'm going to recommend a glass jar. This is a Now Foods half-gallon glass jar. Hopefully soon Spartan will sell these. It comes with a threaded lid that has a mesh screen that is literally just like a window screen. And you take this, take some seeds. I'm going to do this. If you're really, precise. And in my book, I wrote this book, Joe. In this book, there's a whole bunch of guides. It's all about sprouting, but you can just wing it too. But I would take some seeds, just because I do this every day. This is about a quarter cup of mixed seeds. This is garbanzo beans, mung beans, and green peas. This is my protein mix. When you take these, you then will add some water to it and let it soak for 8 hours or overnight, right? Then in the morning, you strain out the extra water, right? Just strain out the extra water. And then you let it sit for another 8 hours, 12 hours. Then you add some more water. Then you rinse it immediately and you let it sit. And these crunchy protein sprouts will be ready to eat in 3 days. And let's talk about what happens when you sprout a lentil. So number one, in 3 days, the volume of lentils will double. So if you had 1 cup of lentils, you now have 2 cups of lentils. And what's increased is the dietary fiber. So that's kind of obvious because it's growing. What's not obvious, once you sprout the lentils, you double the antioxidant levels, just double. And then you triple the vitamin C levels, like just triple. So, and then in 1 cup of sprouted lentils, you get 7 grams of protein, and you get soluble and insoluble fiber. And 1 cup of sprouted lentils, if you make them at home, will probably cost you 25 cents. Like 25 cents, and like they actually taste good. If you can stop eating processed food, refined food, added fat, sugar, and salt, you can actually start to taste, oh, the green bean is a little sweet. The mung bean is kind of neutral. The garbanzo bean tastes like flour. And all these things have qualities. And literally, like that's the sprouting process. Like there's no rocket science behind sprouting. And which is why I was able to write a book on it, having cheated my way through high school, because there's not much to talk about other than like, why the hell isn't everyone sprouting?
Sefra Alexandra, Seed Huntress here, and if you guys know me at all, you know he is totally talking my language. I just want to let everyone know that if you want to know where you can get Doug's book and where you can get the resources to start sprouting, visit me at my website, seedhuntress.com, and you will see some great special offers, and I will explain more to you about that at the end, so let's keep listening.
We'll be right back to this interview, but first a message from today's sponsor, DUROLANE. You know that knee pain can really slow you down. Sometimes that knee pain is due to osteoarthritis, a disease that affects some 14 million Americans. Learn about osteoarthritis knee pain and how to alleviate it at oakneepainrelief.com. You'll find information there about non-surgical, non-opioid treatments for osteoarthritis knee pain that may help delay the need for knee surgery. One treatment you'll find there is DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months of relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. It's indicated for the treatment of mild to moderate osteoarthritis knee pain when conservative treatments have not worked. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. Full prescribing information is at DUROLANE.com. Spartans say no to limits. You can learn more at oakneepainrelief.com. That's oakneepainrelief.com. All right, back to the interview.
So what would you recommend? What would you recommend for somebody that we've had this trouble? I've had the trouble myself, my own personal life, that's just not ready to switch over and move to the Mojave Desert and just eat sprouts. Like, do you suggest every lunch they eat sprouts, once a week? What are you suggesting?
We live in a world that there's a few truths that are universally accepted, right? One of them is that vegetables are good for you, right? So even the USDA, which recommends the food pyramid and triangle, recommends, and they still have not removed meat and dairy from this. They say eat less meat, eat less dairy, blah, blah, blah. But they do universally say vegetables are good for you. And how many servings of fruits and vegetables do you think they recommend in the current U.S. dietary guidelines?
Not enough.
7 to 13 servings. Like they literally, like it's undeniable, irrefutable that they recommend 7 to 13 servings. So if that's the level and you're having 7 to 13 servings and a serving is a fistful, right? So just do the math, how much food that is. So if you're asking me my recommendation, sprouts at every meal. Sprouts every time you open your mouth, eat some sprouts. Where do you start? I would start at adding sprouts to a meal. So you're having granola, you're having a smoothie, you're having a salad, it's hard for me to even say this, you're having a steak. Just add sprouts, right? I don't want to tell people what not to eat. I want to tell them what they could eat for higher level of performance. So just start adding sprouts to everything. Just, have some jars going, experiment with sunflower seeds. These are, we didn't talk about these are broccoli seeds. And I would start with three types of seeds. I'd start with broccoli seeds. I'd start with, especially your people are working out, the Spartans are working out. I would do green peas and lentils. Easy place to start with those sprouts. Add water, soak, get results. And the sprout intelligence actually talks to you. When a sprout is rotten and you screwed up, it's talking to you. If it dries out and not sprouts, no good. And if it smells like rotten eggs, no good, like the sulfur and the thing. So there's a way of communicating if the sprouts are good and not good, and it's trial and error. But think of a seed as a complete living organism in its dormant state that contains everything that it needs to go from this little seed to about 4 inches, and it needs nothing but water, like all it needs. And then once it gets to that level, then it needs fertilizer, then it needs sun, then it needs soil. But in the first stage of sprouting, it's like a baby can live off of mother's breast milk, for an amount of time. The seeds can live on just water. Like that's how genius nature is in propagating the continuation of the plant, that they just need water in these fledgling stages. And if you add the water and you show it a little love, you'll have copious amounts of sprouts.
I love it. We're going to start a sprout revolution. That's what we're going to do. Spartan Sprout Revolution.
Look, I mean, the Spartans are really smart, right? So they're tuned in, and they know that the body is the human transport vehicle for their soul, their spirit, their mind, and their heart. So everything that you put into your body is a choice. And in my world, it was a life or death decision. So if you can think about raising your standards, right? Everyone knows like, oh, I want better this, better this, better this. Sprouting is stepping up your nutrition so that you can have higher quality food available. And the amazing thing is it is cheap. It is inexpensive. Not everyone can go in to a New York juice bar and spend $10 for a cold pressed juice, right? And not everyone can go into the health food store and spend $5 for 1 ounce of broccoli sprouts or sunflower sprouts. But I would say most people can afford spending 25 cents to get a cup of sprouts. And if you don't have a lot of money, more than likely you have a couple minutes a day where you could, choose to invest into your quality health. We all have 168 hours in the week. How can we use those hours and that time to have the mindset of self-care? Like, we need self-care.
Same page. Let's end this with me going to get some sprouts that you motivated me to purchase. I did not grow them myself. Can I add like a little olive oil to them? What would you recommend?
I would say olive oil is pure fat, right? So 1 ounce of olive oil is the equivalent of, 10 olives, 15 olives. So what you could do, my preference, since you're asking for solicited advice, I'd eat some olives and, just eat some olives so you're getting the fiber and eat the sprouts. Just mix them in there and eat them. If you want just to make it more palatable, you can add the olive oil, you can add seasoning to it. My personal preference at this stage, and I'm 54 years old, and one day, yesterday was my birthday, I am so committed to like no added oils, no added sugar, no added fat. Like if I want fat, I will eat 2 avocados, I'll eat a handful of nuts, I'll eat the seeds even before I sprout them. But I'm committed to whole food, unprocessed food, and I look at oil as slightly processed, even extra virgin, premium, blah blah.
All right, you're a purist. Let me go grab some sprouts. Give me like a minute, and I'll be right back because I'm gonna just stuff my face with sprouts.
Okay, I'm gonna just go. Are we continuing or we're ending now?
We're continuing until I'm done.
Okay, so you go. I'll just talk about the book for a minute.
Yeah,
okay?
you talk about your book while I go get my sprouts.
So, for all you loving Sproutans out there, I wrote this book, the Sprout book, and it's like why to sprout, how to sprout, what to sprout, and then what to do with the sprouts. 40 recipes in the book for smoothies to entrees to soups to desserts. So everything that people can have of what to do. So I'll go in like there is the pumped up pesto. So if you're tiptoeing your way into sprouts, try adding sprouts to something you're already familiar with, like pesto. By swapping the sprouts for part of all of the herb component, you won't even notice that they're there. So one garlic clove peeled, half cup pine nuts or pumpkin seeds, 2 cups broccoli sprouts or other salad green sprouts, 1 packed cup of fresh basil leaves with tender stems, 1 packed cup roughly chopped fresh cilantro leaves and stems. And in here, just because we're not like messing with the recipe, half cup extra virgin olive oil, 1/2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, 1/4 teaspoon freshly ground black pepper, and a pinch of red flakes. So that's like the pumped up pesto. Joe, welcome back.
I'm back. I don't know if you can see it or not. For those watching, I've got a combination of mung beans, broccoli sprouts, and celery together. All right, what do you think?
That's brilliant. Joe, I want to make sure that you chew the food. Like in those broccoli sprouts,
I'm going right now. I'm going to start chewing. You talk to me while I'm chewing.
Okay, so there's something like in the plant intelligence that broccoli sprouts are known for their let's just step up for a second. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and kale and Brussels sprouts are known for their anti-cancerous properties, and the specific compound that's been most researched, and all of you can Google, it's called sulforaphane. And all these cruciferous vegetables have the precursor to sulforaphane called glucoraphanin. And if you just eat the the broccoli sprouts or any of the cruciferous vegetables. And when you chew them, you break open the glucoraphanin, and you also break open another like compartment that has an enzyme called myrosinase. And when the two things, it's almost like two-part epoxy. When the glucoraphanin, contacts the enzyme myrosinase, you get this explosion inside, and you form sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is the number one like healing anti-cancer property. As a matter of fact, I was just reading a National Institute of Health white paper on treating autism spectrum disorder with broccoli sprouts, because the sulforaphane generates this heat shock protein. And it's known that when someone with autism is experiencing higher heat, higher temperature, their other symptoms of autism go down. And without giving them a fever, without anything, the broccoli sprouts can trigger that. So the idea that you're getting fiber, that you're getting protein, that you're getting antioxidants, and that it's chewy, like you're eating it, it's a little spicy, and that's where you can mix it with other things. Like one of my favorite things, I smash an avocado, I add as many sprouts as I want, and then, like I mix it together. You want to throw some sauerkraut in it. Ferments are incredible. So if you throw some sauerkraut in it, and then you just have food. And if you can change your consciousness about like wanting to eat to get off, as opposed to eating to train so that you could be a Spartan and you can win the race and you can have the health and you can leap out of your cot in the morning, like that's what it's about. It's not about just eating for pleasure, for things that make you feel good, because what happens is anything that makes you feel good when you're eating like that will actually make you feel like shit later on, because it's not serving you. So you have to look at food as something that is a necessity to live, and it's all about raising your standards. And that was my epiphany, that sprouts were the highest level of standard that I could create that was accessible.
It's not bad. The mung beans are great. The broccoli is spicy. If I had an avocado in here, this thing would be unbelievable. I love avocado. I got to jump, but
Okay.
you and I are in complete alignment. I mean, I could do a podcast with you every single day, because it's so important for me to just hear over and over and over, Joe, get off the food addiction. And we're all addicted to food, the advertisements, the salts, the sugars, and yesterday I did an incredible workout with the fire department down here. They put me in full gear and they kicked my ass so much so that I probably lost 10 pounds of sweat. I was just pouring sweat with that whole uniform on and just working out like a nutcase. And afterwards I felt great. I had a little bit of watermelon when I was done. I needed something. But my mind was going towards like, gee, I'd like to have some of this, or I'd like to have some of that. And I kept saying, why? Why do you want that junk?
Well, there's a whole like other podcast that we can have when we talk about the microbiome, and then the gut, and the bacteria that lives in the gut actually controls the brain and makes you want more. So like what happens is, if your gut has microbes and colonies, and literally, your gut is actually not inside of you. Like physically it's inside of you, but it's actually, if you pull it out, it's outside, inside. And the bacteria that lives in there, there's literally more bacteria in your gut that is alien to you, foreign, like bacteria, fungi, that's living inside of you. The DNA of that, there's more outside than there is human DNA. I mean, this is crazy to think about. And they can control the brain. And they tell you, once you start to feed them, they make you eat more of the crap. And that's why when you can start to eat pure, you can start to taste the individual flavors of the lettuces, of the vegetables, and all of a sudden, like an avocado. I used to like when used to eat avocados when I was first raw. I used to add seaweed to it and salt because I wanted to spicing it up. It wasn't enough for me to just eat an avocado. And now I just tear open an avocado and I smush it like Italian ices from Little Italy, you know, in the little cup, and I just squeeze out the avocado. And, you know, now I've been washing my hands, you know, etc. I'm like, I'm scooping and eating, like just getting back to nature, and I don't need the other stuff. Like I'm into it. But if we focus on the bacteria and the microbiome, that's like the future of health is tied to what we'll learn about the gut bacteria.
One last question with a quick answer because I got to jump. I apologize. And we're going to do this again. How many days, like I just went through 80 days with the children, making them hike up the mountain every day and train hard every day. And I literally saw a transformation over 80 days with habits, with the time they wake up naturally. How many days would you say, if I was to eat just sprouts and celery, you know, the way I want to eat, but the way I don't eat, how many days would it take to have that transformation?
I think that, you know, I'm very, very careful about not giving medical advice. So I'll talk about from my own experience, right? I've done 10-day water fasts. I've done 10-day juice fasts. I've done 10 days of sprouts only. I will say that 10 days to 14 days, if you're consuming, so sprouts are just vegetables. Like, let's just, you know, have that clued. So if you were just saying, like Fred Bishi, 50 years of just eating raw fruits and vegetables, he could totally survive if his vegetable source were sprouts. So, but after about a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, you start to get your taste buds back. So that's an important part.
So somewhere between a week and 2 weeks, you hopefully will start the desire for a cannoli and a Chinese cooked duck will go away.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's, you know, food brings back emotional memories and smell. Like here's a great thing, Joe. And I've done this. I've gone to Little Italy and I've gone into the pastry shop and I'm inhaling the white sugar, the aroma, the baked goods while I'm eating sprouts. Like I'm smelling one thing and I'm eating another.
I like it. So you probably were in my uncle's cafe, Cafe Palermo. I have a feeling.
It could be.
I gotta jump. Love you, even though we don't know each other that long. You're gonna come to Vermont. I'm gonna go to Mojave Desert, and you got a commitment from me on the sprouts. I'm all in.
Look, you know, you are literally the Spartan, right? And you need to, and you do it. You like create challenges and then you achieve them, which is why you are healthy, why you are successful, why you are a great parent, and why you're a great entrepreneur. So I'm grateful for it. I feel like this is my life is starting to have purpose. So Joe, thank you for taking the time and having me on your podcast. I love you. I love the Spartan culture. And as you know, I'm available 24/7 for you, Joe.
Joe, thank you. 5 years, and I finally get to talk about my true, deep, unending love for seeds. Doug Evans, we love you. Just like Joe said, I'm so happy that this conversation is being brought to all of you Spartans because nothing is near and dear to my heart. I call myself an endurance race ethnobotanist because ethnobotany is the study of people and their interaction with seeds and food. As the Seed Huntress, I have spent the better part of a decade helping people around the world make sure that they have seed sovereignty, which means access to seeds. For example, the work I've done in island nations after natural disasters such as Haiti. A storm whips through. rips out all their crops. What I've done is help the agronomists there fortify a community seed bank. So when that happens, instead of waiting to rely on foreign aid to come drop seeds that are from somewhere else and have pests and aren't relevant to their land, they're able to have access to their own seeds, which are adapted to the lands that they have been stewarded on and saved on for generations. My point in saying all this is, with this last pandemic, we finally, the vast majority of the population has really come to understand what the importance of food security and having local access to food really means. The problem with that is land access is often very difficult for people in urban environments and, of course, often very expensive. The great part about seeds is a jar and a $1.25 pack of seeds are really readily available. And right now, open pollinated, non-GMO, organic varieties of seeds are out there. They're available for us. There are so many amazing flavors and diversity that you can avail yourself to. So, what I want you all to remember is, for Maslow's hierarchy, right? We can live 4 weeks without food. We can live 4 days without water. We can live 4 minutes without air, all right? So, these sprouts are all ready for you in less than 4 days. What that means is you have the ability to have the best nutrition bioavailable to you, because seeds are like little endurance racers. Think when you come to a race, what do you pack in your backpack? You got some warmth, you got your granola bars, you got your nutrition. A seed's the same way. It's hibernating. It's a living being in that embryo until it's in the right time, right place, right plant, where it has that moist soil and breaks through. The thing about that is all of that inherent nutrients, think about an acorn that grows to a mighty oak. Everything that it needs to grow into that is right there in the beginning in that seed. When we sprout the seeds, all of those amino acids, those proteins, those fibers, everything goes from a hibernation period to like, let's party, Spartans. Let's get that nutrition in you, okay? So, it's amazing, and it's so easy. It's accessible, it's affordable, and it's available. So what I want you all to do is come visit me at my website, which is seedhuntress.com. And I just want to make sure that you guys know how to get Doug Evans' book, know where you can get some sprout starting kits, some great resources from where to order seeds from, and let's have a sprouting party, Spartans. And I hope you all get your own sprout fit. See you next week. Sprout on. Blessings.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at DUROLANE.com.